Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Roger Hartley. I serve as Dean of the College of Public Affairs here at the University of Baltimore, and I just wanted to welcome you to our last Voices of Public Service event for our spring semester. We are absolutely thrilled that you could come. I really appreciate that you hung in with us for a few more minutes. We just had a few technical difficulties, but we're really now pleased to start. By starting with the introduction, I'd like to say a little bit about our series. I want to thank Dr. Ann Cotton, who's with us today, who will serve as co-interviewer. Dr. Cotton serves as director of our Schaefer Center for Public Policy. And if you all stay around a little bit longer today, after Lieutenant Governor Miller leaves, we have some really exciting news to tell you about some of the programming in the Schaefer Center, including our new Next Gen Leaders in Public Service program, which includes paid state and local internships. So please hang with us afterwards. The series was created over a year ago as our flagship leadership series in public service, where we bring in public leaders and nonprofit leaders to really describe their journey, their career journey, their personal career journey, challenges, opportunities, how they got started. This is really about, for you, the students, and also anyone fascinated with the journey of a public servant. I want to thank not only Ann Cotton and the Schaefer Center, but also our marvelous University of Baltimore Career and Internship Center for their participation and co-sponsorship on this series, which has included Mayor Brandon Smith, Senator Antonio Hayes, Speaker of the House, Adrian Jones, and so many more. But with us today, we are absolutely thrilled to have Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller, recently elected as our first woman and minority leader of our state. We are really excited, Lieutenant Governor, to have a chance to explore a little bit about your career and how you came to be Lieutenant Governor and what you did before becoming a Lieutenant Governor. But we're really honored to have you with us, and the opportunity to have you join our students, faculty, staff, and friends and alums. So thank you so much for being with us today.
You are so welcome, Dr. Hartley. Thank you for having me, and to the entire University of Baltimore and the Schaefer Center and Dr. Cotton and your faculty and students and everyone who's joined us. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure of the first question, Lieutenant Governor, so thank you for being here. You spent the majority of your career working as a civil and transportation engineer for Montgomery County Department of Transportation. What drew you to transportation, and what initially made you decide to go into a career in public service?
Great question, Dr. Cotton. Thank you. So my father was an engineer. He was a mechanical engineer. So I have two other siblings, and you could say I was the chosen one to take after his footsteps, right? My other two siblings are doctors. So he said, I'm the youngest, and he said, I'd like you to be an engineer. Now, I come from a South Asian family, and it's not unusual that you have the parents that like to provide a lot of guidance to you on what you're going to do, in your life as an adult. So he had a lot of influence on me becoming an engineer, and he actually wanted me to go into computer science. Believe it or not, he told me back in the 80s, he said, that's going to be the future of this country and the whole globe. I thought I was so much smarter than my dad. I'm like, nah, Dad, I'm going to go into civil engineering because, I like to build things. I like to implement things. So that's how I ended up in transportation engineering.
And what made you decide to do that in the public sector instead of maybe for a consulting company? And then how did that actually shape your career later on?
Well, Dr. Cotton, I have to tell you, I'm an immigrant with an American story. My family and I immigrated to this country from India, and I was 7 years old when I first came here. And I know the tremendous amount of opportunities that I was given and my siblings were given for the fact that we were American. And so many things made that possible. In fact, I'll take it back to 1964 during the Civil Rights Movement. It was the freedom fighters, the Black activists that fought for civil rights. And when United States looked around to its borders and said, look, we've made a lot of progress within the country on civil rights, but when we look at our borders, we're still, not allowing immigrants from all over the world to come to the United States. So the 1964 Act, Civil Rights Act, directly led to the 1965 Immigration Act, which allowed a whole new, bunch of immigrants to be able to come and call themselves Americans, right? It lifted the racial quota, so those that could come from Africa, Asia, Latin America could come to the United States. So my family was one of those lucky ones that came during that period. So it was the policies of this country that allowed me to come here. And when I first came here to the United States, I didn't know a word of English. So it was the public educators who taught me English and taught me so much more. They told me that I could be anything that I wanted to be. And I believed them. And then when I was in college, my family faced a financial crisis. So I couldn't get through college. Only reason why I got through is because I relied on Pell Grants. And these are Pell Grants that taxpayers from all different sectors of our state were able to collectively give together when I lived in Missouri. These are janitors, police officers, firemen, educators, everybody who's a taxpayer contributed to that Pell Grant and allowed me to cross the finish line. So, as a famous saying goes, when you're given a lot of opportunities, you have a sense of great responsibility to give back. And so I could think of no better way to give back to my country, to my state, to the people of the great state of Maryland than to pay it forward and become a public servant. So immediately after graduating from civil engineering, I got into public service for that reason.
Story. Thank you.
Absolutely. Just a follow-up to your story, having become the first immigrant and woman of color to be elected to a statewide position in Maryland. What is it like to be part of a historically important moment in our state's history, along with Governor Moore?
It is very humbling, Dr. Hartley. That's all I can say. And I know when I say this, Governor Moore feels the same way. We are so humbled to be in this moment, grateful to be in this moment, and we want to make sure that everything we do from the moment we got inaugurated all the way till the next 4 years, that we're able to really create paths that create opportunities for others that otherwise maybe doors were shut for them. And that's what we're hoping to do. To be the first, of course, Governor Moore is the first Black governor to be elected in the state of Maryland. And in fact, our ticket, I believe, having a Black governor and Asian American lieutenant governor is the first of its kind in the entire U.S. history that has ever happened. 2 people of color on a gubernatorial ticket that got elected for the first time. That's quite profound, but more importantly, it's about the opportunities to create for others as we move forward. That's what we're really excited about.
Thank you so much. I have one more real quick one, a very different type of question, and it's about the role of the lieutenant governor. How does the position of lieutenant governor impact public policy in the state?
Oh, I think Lieutenant Governor plays a significant role. Look, while the Constitution says that my role is to be there during the absence of the governor, let me tell you, Governor Westmore, that's not the description he has for me, nor do I. I wouldn't have joined this ticket if I wasn't 100% partner with the governor. And the governor often goes and often says that Aruna Miller will be the most consequential lieutenant governor ever in the state of Maryland. And I plan to be exactly that, Dr. Hartley, because again, to have this profound opportunity to be able to represent immigrants, minorities, people of color, women, people that have never had this opportunity to see someone like this. It's a great responsibility, and I want to make sure that I'm able to serve the communities, all these communities that perhaps never thought this opportunity would ever come up, never thought that they would ever see a situation like this. So you got to be an ambassador for everyone. So I want to make sure that we work on policies that impact Marylanders in every way, shape, and possible. Governor and I talk to each other every single day. We work on policy together, and I have my own policy agenda as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Ann, do you want to follow up?
Lead into two other questions. One, what prompted you to run for the House of Delegates, which you were a delegate prior to becoming lieutenant governor? And then how does that help you with the policy work that you're doing now?
So what prompted me, Dr. Cotton, I would say I was kind of nudged into it. It's quite serendipitous how I ended up in public space. As you know, my technical background is an engineer. Engineers aren't usually the type of individuals that run for public office, okay? I mean, that's probably at the bottom of the list because we just never envision ourselves in a role like that. But I have to tell you, as an immigrant, I became a citizen in the year 2000. And, growing up as a child, we never talked about being politically engaged at the kitchen table. It was more about assimilating ourselves into the new world, working hard, studying hard, stay under the radar. Well, everything about political engagement is not that, right? It's conflict oriented. It's going out there, knocking on doors, doing a lot of research about every candidate that, is running for office. So I was never really acclimated to that till I became an adult and I voted for the first time. And I'll never forget walking into the voting booth and voting and crying because it was such a profound moment for me. And I walked out of that booth and I thought, oh my gosh, I did everything that I was supposed to. I voted and my candidate's going to win. Well, it turned out it was a very messy presidential election year in the year 2000, if you all remember, between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Mm-hmm. And, it was so defeating to see the results of that for the first time when I voted. And I thought to myself, well, clearly voting wasn't enough. Apparently, there's a lot more that goes on besides just voting. And I was petrified, but I called up the local Democratic Party and I said, look, I want to be able to help, but I don't know a thing about what you do. So please know that. And they were like, no, that's okay. We'd love to have you. So I started volunteering and served on the Democratic Central Committee in Montgomery County for 4 years. And then an opening came up. And it was some of the party leaders that came up to me and they said, hey, we'd like you to run for this open delegate seat. And I listened to them, very politely on the phone. I said, oh, well, thank you. Thank you for considering me. But no, thank you. And I hung up. And my husband, was listening to the conversation. He said, did you just hang up on them? I go, yeah. He goes, you said no to them? I said, of course I did. He goes, why would you do that? I said, why would I ever run for office? I'm an engineer. I'm not a politician. I don't know the first thing on how to do this. And I go, and worse, no one ever that looks like me has ever been elected. I'm going to lose. And he said, but what if you win? And Dr. Cotton, that thought never, ever crossed my mind until he said it. He said, think about if you win. You love public service, you're already doing this, and it's a much broader way in which you do public service and help the community. And I'm like, you're right. And I was so scared, but, thank goodness for the support that I received from family, friends, and many of my Democratic friends. And I jumped in with both feet into the deep end. And believe me, I was scared on every door that I knocked at, but I found out in life that the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you grow and the better individual you become, as scary as it seems. So fortunately for me, I was able to get elected under those circumstances. So I always say I'm an accidental politician.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. I thought I would peel away from our scripted questions to go to a question or two from a student. One was a comment, which I think was a compliment to you, which is non-politicians may make the best politicians. Thank you, Joni. And, but second, Tricia, one of our students asks, essentially, what guidance can you give to a student at UBalt who might be aspiring to be the second African-American governor?
Oh my goodness. I say that, again, say yes as often as you can when opportunities are presented to you. There are so many times we make excuses for not going to an event. Oh, I'm too busy to do this. Oh, that. But you'd be surprised when you say the word yes, how many doors open up, and put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, even if you feel like that at that moment. Look, life is full of jagged edges, okay? It's a very uneven as you go through, but you need to be there in that space. You need to show up in those rooms. You need people to know that you are there. Don't shy away from that. So, I would say that, and to really let you know that as you walk through life, and especially in public service, look through the lens of compassion, empathy, and kindness. It's not a position, it's not power that you're trying to achieve. It's how you can make the world a better place for others. People who are currently suffering, people who are going to come up right behind you. It's about what you can do to help them. That's what it's about. It's not about a title. It's not about the fame. It's not, a position that you have. It's about what you're going to do to help others.
Thank you. Kind of following up on that and what you said earlier about having your own policy agenda. What is the policy agenda? What's your policy agenda?
Sure. So I would love to have 100 things under my policy agenda, but I gave it a lot of thought, narrowed it down to really 3 items. One is transportation. What I found out in traveling through the state, whether it's in rural Maryland or urban Maryland, that there are so many people who are cut out of the economy and their ability for generational wealth because the biggest barrier for them is the lack of transportation. Not everybody has a car, so they rely on public transportation. So many individuals who are in entry-level positions or returning citizens or those that are in different socioeconomic levels, they rely entirely on public transit. And if public transit is not reliable and dependable in getting to, taking them to the jobs that they need to go to, well, we had a roundtable discussion where a business owner, a restaurant owner, said he had to fire his employees through no fault of their own, but because the public transit didn't get to pick them up on time and take them to where they needed to on time. This just cannot exist. So I want to work on how we can make public transit more reliable, dependable, and, from an equity standpoint. That's one. 2, I want to focus on STEM education. I'm a STEM major, and it's important to me to have more women and people of color in the STEM fields, because it is the STEM people with the STEM education that are really going to solve a lot of the 21st century challenges to come up with the solutions, whether it's for climate change, healthcare, cybersecurity, quantum computing, AI. In fact, they say that majority of the jobs, the most successful jobs at the federal level, 9 out of 10 have a STEM education background. And you don't need to have a 4-year degree. You can get an apprenticeship. You can go for a 2-year degree and get really high paying jobs as well. Again, creating generational wealth. And then finally, mental and behavioral health. Look, every one of us has been touched by mental health, whether it's at a personal level individually or loved ones that have suffered from it. And then, of course, resort to, trying to fix it themselves by going substance abuse and drugs and other things like that. So I really want to put a lot of focus on this and bring greater sunlight to mental health and behavioral health, that it's not a moral failure. It's a chronic disease that you have. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and we should be talking about it and providing more services. In fact, today I was just in Cecil County at a high school called Rising Sun High School, where the students from the high school and middle school could talk to me about the issues that they were facing from a mental health standpoint, and what can we do together to be able to provide more resources so students can be successful and get over this difficulty, these dark phases in their life.
Thank you so much. And that is an impressive agenda, and thanks for asking. And we have a lot more questions, although I was looking at our list of attendees, and I just want to thank all of our students, but I also see faculty and staff here. And I want to recognize one, Professor John Willis, who was instrumental in having you join us here today. We just really thank you for being with us, John, and also thanks for your assistance in helping us invite Lieutenant Governor Miller. There's some questions in chat, and are you okay on time? I know you have another event soon. Okay.
No, go right ahead.
Great. One from one of our students, I believe, Rebecca Ofer, how do you plan to increase civic engagement in the state?
Great question, Rebecca. First, Dr. Hartley, if I could, a big shout out to John Willis. He has been so instrumental, not only in my life, governor's life, but so many other students who were so lucky to have him as a professor. He's such a super public servant that knows the state of Maryland like the back of his hand. And I actually suggested to him, he didn't like the idea. I wanted to rename Carroll County to Willis County because, of course, he's from Carroll County where he was born. But, Professor Willis, great to see you here. To Rebecca, so how do we get more civic engagement? Great question. Rebecca, one of the things that Governor Westmore and I really believe is those who are closest to the challenge are closest to the solution. Right? So we want to get people right up there at the table. We want to listen to them. We don't want to be sitting in a silo thinking that we know all the answers, because no one individual does. So what we're doing right now is we're going across the state and meeting people where they are. In fact, there's been so many places I've been to, and I know the governor has, and we haven't even hit our 100-day mark yet. And the people come to us and say, no governor, no lieutenant governor have ever visited us before. And that just like shakes me up and makes me cry when I think about that. I'm like, how sad that is, because that's exactly what Governor Moore and I ran on, to leave no one behind. And so to increase civic engagement is to go meet people where they are, to hear their concerns, not talk at them, but listen to them, and to have representatives that look more like the community, right? Because I know when I first ran as a delegate, I think I was the first Indian American female to be elected to the Maryland General Assembly. And when I did that, you cast an electoral net that's a lot wider than before, because all of a sudden there's communities that look at you and they're like, oh, there's somebody that looks like me. Maybe I should be engaged. So then they start volunteering for the campaign. Then they start paying attention more to the advocacy groups. They join them, and they hopefully will run for public office one day as well. So I think it's a combination of things to be able to increase greater civic engagement.
Thank you so much.
A related question, I'm sorry, Roger?
No, go ahead. It was your turn.
And a related question about public service. At the Schaefer Center, we created a Next Gen Leaders for Public Service program, and we're focused on building the public service pipeline. Matt Cesaro has a question about that, saying we want need to portray public service as one of the next grand challenges we go after as a society and a nation, like climate change, energy, and social justice. What can we do as individuals and organizations to place public service in that kind of visionary goal that people would be worth people going after? So basically, like, how do we get people excited about public service?
Okay, well, I think service, I personally think it is so exciting because I know exactly what my mission is. My mission is to build a state that's better for every resident that lives in our state. There is no bottom line or profit here. We're talking about meeting the needs of every individual. To me, that is just very grounding and wholesome from my perspective. And through public policy, you can really create so many opportunities for individuals, generations that have been oppressed and suppressed, and to be able to write policies that can really impact their lives and open doors and lift people out of poverty. I know, like Governor Westmore and myself, we introduced 10 pieces of legislation during our first session, and every one of those pieces of legislations has passed. And I think we've had one of the most successful first term administrations ever, being able to, we're batting 1,000, right? And a lot of our legislation has to do with lifting people out of poverty, making sure that families get paid minimum wage. Governor Moore has a quote in his office, and it's one of my favorite quotes by President John F. Kennedy. And it says, "Things don't happen, they're made to happen." So everything that happens in the public space, it happens for a purpose, because people and individuals that cared enough made it happen. And those same people that will make policies that are not advantageous to certain segments of our population. So that's what makes public policy so exciting to me, because it really is one big sweeping brushstroke that you can do to change people's lives. I remember one time I met a doctor, and he came up to me and he said that, this must be really exciting for you to be a policymaker. I said, it is. I said, but however, it must be really exciting for you to heal the world as a doctor. And he said, Aruna, he goes, I can heal the world, but I do it one patient at a time. You as a policymaker get to do this big, broad stroke and really change people's lives across the entire state of Maryland, 6 million people all at once. And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And so that's what I say is so exciting about public policy, how you can impact people's lives, at such a broad level.
Thank you so much. That was really inspirational. That's the work of our College of Public Affairs in a nutshell, to say the least. Thank you. I wanted to go to a question. Actually, it's the chair of our faculty senate at the University of Baltimore, Mike Keel. He first compliments you on having a focused agenda of 3, and I agree. It's really great, and it's a great agenda. But he asks a really important question that we're dealing with nationally right now. You mentioned rural areas when you were talking about transportation, for instance, and we're a country and a state really deeply divided by culture across geographic boundaries, rural, urban, suburban. What ideas do you have to try to bridge those divides, and or how can you demonstrate that you're governing for all of the state's citizens, even those who may be adamantly opposed to your administration?
Great question, to Mike. Thank you for that. I can tell you, even during the campaign, many people would come up to, Westmore and myself at the time and say, hey, why are you going to Western Maryland? Why are you going over to Wycomico County or Pocomo City? There's not a lot of Democrats out there. And Governor Moore and I would say every time, yeah, but there's a lot of Marylanders out there. And when we get elected, we're going to represent all the people, regardless of what their party affiliation is, regardless whether they live in rural Maryland or urban Maryland. It is critical that we get beyond this divisive, narratives that are going out there that, you're red, you're blue, you're this, you're that. No, we're one Maryland. And that's how we're going to succeed. When a certain segment of the state of our, state of Maryland succeeds, Baltimore City, guess what? All of, Maryland succeeds. When in Kent County is successful at something and we give them, we're able to give the funding and resources they need, all of Maryland succeeds. So that's what it's all about. And, I have to tell you a funny story if you have enough time to listen to it, but this is really the epitome of why it's important to listen to people, no matter how different our perspectives may be. So when I first ran for delegate, my husband got a little zealous and decided to place my campaign sign in front of this, what he thought was the public right of way, which, by the way, he shouldn't be doing anyway. It should be in people's lawns if they ask for it. So it's this big farmland, big stretch of land, and he thought it was a public right of way. And so I'm at work and I get a call from, I guess, the person that lives there. And the person is irate and angry. And he's like, "Is this Aruna Miller's campaign office?" Of course, when you're a delegate, you're the campaign manager, you're the office, you're everything, right? So I pretended like, yeah, this is her office. I was not about to tell him that it was Aruna Miller on the phone because he was that angry. And so he said, her office put a campaign sign in front of my house. You let her know that I would never vote for her. I'm a Republican, and tell her to get her freaking signs off my lawn. And I'm like, okay, sure, sir. I'll let her know that. I, hang up, call my husband, and I'm like, what did you just do? You got me into, this big trouble. And the guy lives on a street that we drive by every single day to go anywhere. Now I'm going to have PTSD every time I drive by this guy's home. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take this head on. And I was petrified. So I drive up to his house, long driveway on a farm, right? And I knock on the door and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to have a shotgun behind that door. I call my mom and I said, "Mom, if you don't hear from me, please, this is where I'm at this address." So the door opens and an elderly couple opens the door, and they're like, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I got a call from a guy named Jed." And they go, "Oh, that's our son." And I said, "Well, he's really angry. I just want to say I'm so sorry that our signs were misplaced on your lawn." And they're like, "Oh, that's okay, honey. Why don't you come on in?" And I'm like, I really don't want to come in, but I go inside and have some tea with this lovely couple. And I leave after about 20 minutes or so, and I get a phone call from Jed again. He's like, "Were you just at my house?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "My parents really liked you." And I said, "Well, you would too if you met me." And he's like, "Okay, why don't you come over?" So again, I go over to his house and we have a lovely conversation. So he was all upset about a bill that, again, in the media, that was, entirely misconstrued. I explained it to him. Once he understood it, he said, "I get it." He ended up putting up a sign in his front lawn that said "Republicans for Aruna Miller," ended up giving me a $1,000 campaign check. So my story, the story to every individual is never take anything off the table. Never take no for an answer. Just go ahead and face that challenge, and you'd be surprised what the results may be.
That is an awesome story. and
Awesome story.
And it's true, when you get a chance to meet people, despite our defensive postures sometimes on politics, and really get to know who they are, we talk, and we do all the time, and that has to be our approach to winning people over, even when we disagree with them, and often you find you don't disagree on everything, right?
That's right, Dr. Hartley. And just because you have disagreement with someone doesn't mean they're your enemy. That's
Right.
part of life. Look, I've been married to my husband for 33 years and I still disagree with him on things, but that's just the nature of us being human beings.
How are you doing on time?
Are you okay on time, Lieutenant Governor?
I'm good.
Okay, just want to be sure. You're on, Ann.
We have a question in chat from Chiwuka Jimana, and his question is, will or are there any innovative projects to integrate technology with mental health and MDOT?
Wow, that's a loaded question there. So I absolutely believe there are innovative technologies out there. Look, there's a lot of challenges in our state and across our nation, but The solutions are out there, and those solutions are going to come from individuals that are experts in these fields, that Governor Moore and I believe that who are the closest to the challenge or closest to the solution. So we know those answers are out there, and there's a great opportunity to be able to use technology, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in transportation. And we're getting to, look, we haven't even been in office for 100 days. So we are going to be sitting together and talking to our secretaries and to really understand what are things that we can do. And I know we can get these solutions out there. Look, when we first joined this, part of our administration, I think people are really surprised by how much the Moore Miller administration has been able to achieve. There were people who said, well, Wes Moore was never elected to office. He'll never be able to even figure out where the bathroom doors are in Annapolis. Well, guess what? He did figure out where they are. Not only that, we've had the most successful first term legislative session ever. As I said, we introduced 10 bills that all passed the General Assembly. And then we also created the most diverse cabinet ever in Maryland's history, where 50% are represented by women, 50% by people of color. Look, when I was in the General Assembly and all the years I've been here, I was told that could never happen. And guess what? It can happen. It's just like that saying. Things don't just happen, they're made to happen. So I think people will be surprised by just how much Governor Moore has been able to achieve. And then also he's, of course, introduced the first ever in the nation, the SERVE Act, which will give an opportunity for high school students to serve the state of Maryland for 1 year. And we're so excited about starting that.
That is really exciting. And I know that we're excited about it because we're excited for students to get into public service, and we're excited here in the College of Public Affairs. We're going to wrap up with that as our last question. I so appreciate you taking time from your incredibly busy schedule. Your story is inspirational. I think our students love it. I loved it. It's just great. And so many great stories about, especially the person that was kind of in opposition and now a supporter. It's really a great story for all of us about facing kind of conflict and opposition with an open mind and open heart. And you've just really been an inspiration to all of us. And I thank you for taking time to be with us today.
Dr. Cotton, thank you so much. And thank you for what you do to inspire your students to get into the field of public service. I just could think of doing nothing more in my life. It's a calling. And I think I would tell all your students that you'll know it when that calling hits you, just comes over you and it just sweeps you over. And you're like, okay, this is my mission in life. I'm going to be doing this. So thank you for what you're doing. And likewise, Dr. Hartley, thank you for everything you're doing to inspire your students.
Thank you. And Lieutenant Governor, let me add my thanks to you. You've been absolutely inspiring. All of us look forward to seeing the work that you're doing to improve our state. And we've just been delighted and honored to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just make one pitch to all your students, if they ever want to come and visit me in Annapolis, please have them do so. Just write to lt.governor@maryland.gov. I'd love to be able to have them come and show the LG's office, which, by the way, apparently Thomas Jefferson used to be there at one time. So I would love for them to come over at any time and give them a tour of Annapolis. They really need to be there. They'll fall in love with Annapolis once they come there.
Thank you so much. We're going to see you there, all of you there pretty soon. We have our Schaefer Center Future of Public Service Conference and event in Annapolis at the Westin on May 9th. So we're going to be kind of barraging into town. But thank you again. We really appreciate it. And to our students and faculty, if you wouldn't mind staying on a few more minutes, we have some exciting news for you. Thank you again, Lieutenant Governor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great
evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, everyone, thank you for taking a few extra minutes with us. That was absolutely fabulous, and it was a perfect way to wrap up our series for this semester. And I certainly wanted to begin by saying, look out for a whole nother agenda of at least 4 Voices of Public Service events in the fall semester as well. Dr. Cotton and I wanted to just share some really exciting news for students and some of you who are looking at the University of Baltimore right now, but also our faculty and staff who are on. There have been some exciting changes and additions to our William Donald Schaefer Center for Public Policy, and some work that is now being done for the entire university by our center for any student that's interested in going into public service. I'm really proud of our team in the Schaefer Center and our leadership, Dr. Cotton. Thank you personally. We have a lot to tell you about, including the event that I just mentioned on May 9th, but I'm not going to steal your thunder, Ann. Would you like to say a few words about the Next Gen program, our public service leadership interns, and more?
So everyone, I'm thrilled to say that our Next Gen Leaders for Public Service program will once again in July be offering paid internships to University of Baltimore students. And one of the exciting things is we're going to, for the first time, be able to provide paid internships for students who work in nonprofit organizations. So we have internships in nonprofit organizations and state and local government. And you can find out about those by going to the Schaefer Center's website, schaefercenter.ubalt.edu, and click on their Next Gen program. And you'll see all the opportunities there. We also have opportunities for community development fellows. So these are students who work in internships in community development organizations in Baltimore. So lots of really exciting programs there. And we also have 75 scholarships to our Maryland Certified Public Manager program starting in July of this year. 25 of those are for managers in nonprofit organizations throughout the state, and then 50 for managers in state and local government. So state, local, county government agencies. Terrific opportunities available for people that want to explore public service and those who are in public service that want to prepare for leadership opportunities. So we're thrilled about these great opportunities that we have to offer. And we also, as Dean Hartley said, we have our public service conference coming up. This is the Future of Public Service. It's May 9th, and it's at the Westin Hotel in Annapolis. And you can find that on our website as well. And we'll be honoring Dr. Carla Hayden, who's the Librarian of Congress, with the 2023 William Donald Schaefer Award. And Dr. Hayden used to be the head of the Enoch Pratt Library here in Baltimore. So it's a great opportunity to see what a Baltimorean has done and going forward into public service at the national level. And I think that she's a real inspiration and it'll be a great opportunity for you. The event is free, but registration is required. I see that Dean Hartley's been busy posting in the chat with all the links.
So the first link is the Schaefer Center for Public Policy link, and on the front page is some information on our conference on May the 9th and registration details. So click on that. It is in Annapolis, again, free. There is actually a free lunch, and they're in public service that day. We're celebrating Public Service Week. Also, I put a link in there as well, a direct link to the Next Gen Leaders Program for Public Service and how you can apply for those paid internships in local, state government, and nonprofits. We really encourage that. And if you are a student from the law school, the College of Arts and Sciences, or the business school, these are absolutely available to you. You should apply. The goal of the Next Gen Leaders Program that Dr. Cotton and I have been working on is to attract students from all disciplines, all fields, into roles in government. I think you all know this, but I'll just give some examples. Students in history, students in finance often find themselves working for the state or local government in different departments in different fields. And we believe strongly that with a little bit of additional experience, and we believe it should be paid experience, and a little bit of additional education as well, that we can and will prepare you for those jobs in federal, state, and local government. And that's the goal of the Next Gen program. and I think Dr. Cotton mentioned this, but we're going to be kicking off in the fall a cohort, literally, that you can join, a cohort of students that we would lead through a series of experiences, workshops, and of course, the opportunity for those internships as well to provide that extra experience where you could earn a badge ultimately at the end of your experience with the Next Gen program. So again, whatever your major is, we're going to welcome you into this program, and we really hope you'll join us. So look out for more information on that as well. I see a couple questions in the chat, and you're welcome to add questions into Q&A as well. But I see, what about graduate student of human services administrator? Are they also qualified to apply? Certainly qualified to apply. What I always ask students, though, is to work with the program director of their school or college as to whether it counts as an internship for your curriculum. That, of course, has to be worked out with your program director or your advisor. And it's also something that I strongly believe that you would end up taking a course for credit for that as well. But you do not have to take the paid public service internship program for credit. That can be done outside of your curriculum. For us, it's to help you find your journey into your field.
And there's a couple of questions in chat. One is a Next Gen program for alumni. That's no, unfortunately. The program is for current students, and it's designed. Program is for graduate and undergraduate students, so that's fine, and everyone's eligible to apply for it, even students in the law school. And it's only for current students at the University of Baltimore, and it's part of we are part of the Volcker Alliance Next Gen Service Corps. So this is a national network of 15 institutions across the country that are dedicating work to helping students to explore careers in public service. So as Dean Hartley said, we're creating this Next Gen Leaders for Public Service. It's a digital credential, digital badge. So we have 3 components to the experience. 1 are the paid internships. 2 is the academic component. We have a non-credit certificate in public sector management. We have a minor in public sector and public management, and then any of our degree programs in the College of Public Affairs. That's the academic component. And then we have co-curricular activities like the Voices of Public Service, like our public service conference. And then we also have events with Career Center, site visits to local government agencies, and lots of great experiences for you to learn and more about public service and to be with a cohort of your peers as you explore careers in public service. And then finally, our paid internship component.
Absolutely. I wanted to add a couple things that we sort of dream of, but one is already in existence. I want to encourage our students to work with our incredible Career and Internship Center. They are fantastic, and they do a lot of work, not just to help students find jobs, but to prepare them for the workforce, and so many additional services, looking at resumes and others. There's also a university-wide mentoring program, and I highly recommend that. And one of the things that we're working to do is to make sure that public service students get connected with public service focused interns through that program, which is housed in Quad S, student success and student support. I always get that wrong. It might be student support and student success. Too many S's, but we love them. So I wanted to mention that too. Our whole goal here, as we mentioned before, is to have students while they're at UB not just learn in the classroom, but to be forced outside of the boundaries of the university to have an impact on our community and learn in the community, but also along the way, pick up pointers, mentoring, and other opportunities to find their career network. That's what I've been passionate about my whole career in education. It is Dr. Cotton's passion. And I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at our list of participants. I'm seeing John Brenner, John Willis, Joe Adler, Kelechi Utsuchuko, Larry Thomas. These are members of our faculty. Alan Lyles. It's every one of their passions as well. Heather Wyatt-Nickel. Really happy to have all of you with us, by the way, but this is a team that I'm mentioning to all of you as people who care deeply about their students and your journey towards your fields. So to the person, I'd be a bad dean if I didn't take this opportunity, to the person in the chat that said our alums able to join the network? The answer is no, but alums can always come back and get another degree, and we'd love to talk with you about that if you're interested. There's also 2 programs in the Shaper Center, the Certified Public Manager credential, and also the Maryland Equity and Inclusion Leadership Program, which is co-directed by Dr. Uzochukwu, who is on this webinar right now. Highly recommend you take a look at those on the Shaper Center website so alums can come back, and we hope you will. Other questions? Trying to see if there are others that have popped up. I'm seeing no other questions in the chat. And did we leave anything out?
We placed 79 interns since September through our Next Gen program. So there's lots of opportunities for students. As Dean Hartley said, any major can apply. We have lots of agencies, state, local, county, municipal. So there's lots of opportunities. If you want a placement if you live outside the metropolitan region, you want a placement for the summer, you can let us know. And we have opportunities all throughout the state, Western Maryland, the Eastern Shores, and everywhere in between.
Thanks so much. We still have 24 folks on, and we still have time, and I kind of want to keep going. There's more to tell you about, if you don't mind. There are 2 other programs you should take a look at inside of the college. One is also in the Shaper Center. It's part of our interns program, but it's a special program that we created. I created back in 2016. Take a look at Community Development Fellows. That program is a special paid fellowship that is available to students who are interested in working in the city of Baltimore and its neighborhoods in neighborhood development and neighborhood revitalization programs. Highly recommend you apply for that program. It is open to juniors and seniors and also grad students. That's also on the Shaper Center website. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we have, it's a little hidden sometimes, but we have a student professional development fund. Now, this one's only for CPA students, sorry, but we raised this funding from our alums, and we support students who are interested in professional development. They can apply for a grant of up to $500 to join a professional association, attend a conference, take a training that's outside of the discipline of our university. We've given dozens and dozens of these grants away over the years, and I thank our alums, some of which are on this call right now, for donating to that. But please apply for that. We love to give that money away because it helps you connect to your careers. So again, thanks so much. And Ann, I know we're at 5:03 and people have dinners to go to and classes to go to as well. I know. Any final thoughts from you, Dr. Cotton?
Just to remind everyone that all students at the University of Baltimore are eligible to apply for internships. If you're a freshman and sophomore is not, but above freshman and sophomore, yes, junior, senior, graduate, and law students. So everyone's eligible to apply. And we do there's an online application. We do a matching service to help you get to a good placement for you and a good placement for the host organization. So check us out and keep your eyes out. You'll be hearing more about us in the summer and fall.
Thank you so much. And to everyone, thank you for attending today. We really appreciate it. It's been an amazing series this year. I kind of wish we're doing it in the summer, Ann, but look for us again in the fall, but look for all of these opportunities that we talked about. We're really excited for you to have them. Everyone, if you're going to class, have a great class. If you're going home or going to work, as some of our students do at night, have a great rest of your evening. We really appreciate it.
Good, everyone.
Good night.